Hello friends, today I'm going to show you how to turn water and other stuff into wine. I've actually seen a lot of videos, well not so many a lot, but quite a few videos, and they're lengthy and boring, so I'm going to make this really short and sweet, as short as I can. Plus all those videos don't really have an awesome Cookie Monster t-shirt. So get right into it. First I'm going to show you my equipment list, very high tech. I have the ingredients you're going to need as well as the equipment you're going to need. So, getting right into it. First off, I have a 6.5 gallon bucket. You're going to need more than a 5 gallon bucket for this recipe. 6.5 gallon bucket with an airlock. Sometimes you can have a drain valve on the side. If you have that, you may or may not need the auto siphon. I find it to be really easy. It's only about $10, $12 on Amazon. I also have a second 5 gallon bucket. Make sure that when you buy these, they are in fact food grade. You're going to need a hydrometer to measure the specific gravity for your alcohol content, which is not necessary, but it's nice to know how much alcohol you have. You're going to need some muslin cloth or cheesecloth. And as far as the ingredients that we're going to need today, I like to use the Super Clean. It is an ingredient to make, it's basically a clarifier, and it takes all the gunkiness out and it makes the wine look a little bit better. Obviously, you're going to use your yeast. This is just one random brand that I have found. I like to use 2 of them for this recipe because one of them is up to 5 gallons, and you just want to make sure they're only about $1. I want to make sure you actually have them. Of course, I have the pectic enzyme, the wine tannin, yeast nutrient, potassium sorbate, cannabis tablets, also known as potassium monobisulfate, citric acid, 10 pounds of sugar. I did use 12 pounds in my last batch, and it made a 15.5% wine. So I'm going to go down to 10 pounds this time. I have 8 pounds of frozen strawberries. I did on one of the videos. I did notice that you want to use frozen because I think it like freezes the fairy dust in there and it turns into some magic crystals and it makes it taste better or whatnot. And then also this time I'm actually going to make a watermelon out of it. Or strawberry watermelon wine as well, but this recipe does just call for strawberries. I did not include a blender. I'm assuming everyone's got a blender in their house. So those are all the ingredients you need, and we'll get right to it. All right, so the first thing I do here is I have my 3 gallons of water inside my bucket, and I'm going to go ahead and mix my sugar in there first, because if you add your frozen strawberries to it, you get cold water, and cold sugar does not dissolve very well into coldness. So you add your 10 pounds of sugar into your water. And stir. All right, once you have all your sugar water done, you're going to blend the strawberries. A lot of the videos, they take the strawberries or whatever fruit and they kind of mash it up and they spend 20-30 minutes. I like to spend 5 minutes blending my stuff. So you just take your strawberries, I take some of my sugar water, mix it up in there, and then you blend. I'm not gonna bore you with the details, but you take all this and all your strawberries and my watermelon, that's what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna put it right back in my 3 gallon bucket of strawberry water, sugar, watermelon concentrate. All right, now we're gonna add 4 teaspoons of the citric acid, stir, and let sit. We're gonna cover and let sit for 24 hours. Here's my batch. As you can see, this is why I needed a larger than a 5 gallon bucket. I cannot express cleanliness and also the importance of your children being quiet while you're trying to make videos. Some of them are more rude than others. But we're going to let this stir and sit for 24 hours, and I will see you tomorrow. Hopefully I will remember to change my t-shirt. The wife is out of town, but hey, you know, beggars can't be choosers. Hello friends, this is day 2, and today we're going to make some happy little yeast. I told you yesterday we added some citric acid, which you need to have for the strawberries, and some kind of magical stuff happens when you add citric acid because they don't have enough acid. So I'm assuming if you make like a strawberry pineapple wine, you don't need to add the acid, but you know, it's like physics and science and stuff. Today we're going to add our yeast nutrient, our pectic enzyme, and our wine tannin. Our yeast nutrient adds nutrients to the yeast. The pectic enzyme and the wine tannin, I saw some other videos, and they basically take gazorbinplat and you add it to the flurbin, and witchcraft happens, and that's what helps with making our wine. So that's what we're going to do today. Now, don't be disturbed by the brown substance of the wine tannin. You could actually also use some tea as well. So for today, I just took a little bit of my wine, or my water, sugar, strawberry, watermelon concoction. And that way I can mix my yeast nutrient, pectic enzyme, and wine tannin. As soon as I'm done with this, I will add it to the main batch and stir some more. Okay, so before we add our yeast, we want to take our hydrometer and measure our specific gravity so we can get a before and after and actually get our alcohol content. Like I said earlier, we added that 10 pounds of sugar. And what yeast actually does is that's not actually the sweetness part. What yeast does is it actually eats that sugar and it basically poops out alcohol and carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide is all the bubbles you're going to see. So if the yeast does its job and eats all the sugar, this will actually be a very dry wine, if you will, and it will not be sweet. The sweetness will be from the fruit. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our before. And what you need to do is you take your graduated cylinder, and obviously you have a chunky mixture. You want to try to get as many chunkies out as you can, and try to get as much liquid. And you basically take your hydrometer and you dunk it in your graduated cylinder. And I'm getting a reading of about 1.96. And if you take a look at this hydrometer actually has estimated alcohol content on here. So as you can see, let's try to get a little focused here. So you can see at the, why is that not focusing? The red here is the 0, and then it goes up to the, the red is the 1. And then I was about 1.96-ish. And if you look, each one of these things has a % alcohol. So at 1, obviously you're going to have 0% wine, and this is just an estimate. And then it goes to 5%, 10% alcohol. And if I was at 1.96, I'll be right about 12.5% alcohol. Now what I did learn is when you take your final, it actually goes beyond 0. So when you do your final calculation, you can actually do a Google search. And even though I had a 14% to begin with, or this is 12.5% to begin with, I may have an extra 0.5% to 1% more. So I have that target of 13, 13.5, maybe up to 14% alcohol. Now is the time, before I add my yeast though, do I want to add more sugar, which will raise the alcohol? Obviously, it cannot add any less, but if you want to add more sugar, now's the time to do it. If you want that 15.5% like I had before, I'll add that extra 2 pounds of sugar to get that. But I think I'm pretty pleased with this. This is, like I said, about 12.5 plus the 1 maybe fudge number. I'll probably have about 13.5% wine, so we'll go with this. All right, so here we are ready to add our happy little yeast. Remember, as a recap, we're on day 2. Day 1, we had our water, sugar, strawberry, watermelon concoction with our acid. Remember, you don't have to add the watermelon. I just did that this time to give a little bit more spice, if you will, a little more flavor. Then we added our nutrients, we measured our specific gravity, and now we're going to add our yeast. These are good up to 5 gallons, and since I'm such a professional, this being my 3rd batch and all, I like to add this second packet, like I said earlier. These are only $1. If you don't add enough, then you won't get rid of all of the sugars, and you won't get that alcohol content you're looking for. So now I'm just going to add it into my mixture, my 2 packets of yeast, and I'm going to stir thoroughly. And then when I'm complete, you want to keep this open. So I'm going to put one of my little muslin cloths over this and let this go for the next 3 days while this thing has its primary fermentation and it goes to town and has very violent carbon dioxide release. So I'm going to stir all this. I'm going to put the muslin cloth over it, and we'll be back tomorrow with a 10-second clip on me stirring it. All right, so here we are on day 3, and my wine is starting to ferment. I'm getting lots of violent bubbles going on. It kind of looks like a major battle in the ocean. I wouldn't know because I'm in the Old Navy, Also, right now, here's what your wine should look like. If it looks like anything from the oatmeal that they try to feed the golden child, you're doing good. You kind of press it down and then there's all the stuff that comes out. All you want to do is just give this a nice stir, not too violent. You can see all the bubbles coming out. Just give it a nice stir all the way down. Make sure my hand is washed. Give it a nice stir back and forth. And we are done. And we're gonna do this for day 3, 4, and 5. Day 4, we're going to uncover. And now it looks like Mount Vesuvius. Very violent bubbles. And we're just going to stir gently. Get down in there. Now cover. Day 5. Uncover, stir, cover again. Alright, so here we are on day 5, and we've done our primary fermentation for the 3 days. You saw me, about 2-3 hours ago, I stirred it just to get that last little mixture, and now we're going to take all of our shark chum and filter it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to filter it into one bucket and then filter it back. But first we're going to get all these lovely chum bits out. I'm going to take my colander and start filtering this out. Let it drain. Try not to get too many splashes. And get the main pieces out. Alright, now that I've taken my colander and I've gotten the main chunks out, I've rinsed it out, lined it with the muslin cloth over my second bucket. And now this is where I like to use my siphon. And I'm just going to slowly take the rest out. And this whole piece right now is filter. Filter, filter, filter. And as you can come and see, it's just going to be gravity fed now. And I'm going to go through about 4 or 5 of these little muslin cloths. That's why I have quite a few of them here. And once I get done filtering this first piece, I'm going to filter it yet again back into the original bucket. And so while I'm sitting here, I like to reflect on the time of one of the greatest Disney animated movies of all time. I know you're all thinking the same thing, The Aristocats. It was definitely something that pure genius. See, hold on a second, I'm getting a little bit full. And this is going to take quite a while. Right now we kind of have like a pink sludge that doesn't look very appetizing, but trust me, as we filter and filter again, then it'll look much better. So once I'm done here, I'm going to go ahead and raise this up. Once this muslin cloth is getting full, go ahead and pinch. Raise up. And then just go ahead, I have a little holder right here. I'm going to let that sit. Alright, so we've went ahead and filtered the very first part into our 5-gallon bucket. As you can see with the watermelon, I got almost a little overzealous there with the amount of fluid there, but obviously we lost a lot. You can see here, I can take this pink slime and make some chicken nuggets out of it later. I'd pay you to do the camera, not to laugh. It's just, okay, thank you. So basically now we're going to filter it back into our clean 6.5-gallon bucket. And this one is going to take a lot less time because most of our pink slime has been removed. So I'm only going to go through about 2, maybe 3 of these filters. And then once I'm done, we'll finish up. All right, so I filtered and I filtered back in my original 6.5-gallon bucket. I got my quasi-filtered stuff, and now we're doing what they call a secondary fermentation. I'm going to put my lid on here with my airlock, and what this does is it keeps all of the carbon dioxide that the yeast is pooping out, right, along with the alcohol, and you want it to stay in that environment. So we'll let it kind of build up for a second, and you'll start to see this bubble up just a little bit. Bubbles. Bubbles. All right, so here we are on day 9, and as you can see, I have stopped the bubbles have stopped going, so stopped fermenting. So last time I went about a day 9 total of 4 days into my secondary fermentation. When I did just a strawberry wine in my last batch, I was like 14, 15 days. So it's a little bit concerning that I've stopped my fermentation, and there could be quite a few reasons why it stopped. And you can look at why did my bubbler stop fermenting, or why is my bubbler stop going. You can look at it on Google. But the main thing you need to do is check your hydrometer reading. So it could just be some wines stop fermenting after just a few days. So if everything is true, and actually you want to come up and take a look at this. This is our primary color right now. So still kind of that same pale pink, not too appetizing, kind of like a strawberry water type piece. But we're just going to take our final hydrometer reading to see if we have stopped our fermenting or we're done. Oh yeah, so if you see it went way, way down, and we are below 1, so we are done. So I'm looking at this, and I am about at 0.989. And if you remember, there's actually a little snafu. I wrote this down. I was at 1.096, not 1.96. That would have been like 150% alcohol. But 1.096 to begin and 0.989. If you just do a Google search for a hydrometer alcohol calculator, which we did, so one for my homies and one for me. Oh, it's like mother's milk. Oh, it's good stuff. Yeah, definitely alcohol content. So if you go right here and look, 0.989, I'm at a 14%. So right at my target. I was thinking at 13.5. I'm at 4. It's actually 14.04 per the calculator. So I'm at my 14% alcohol. I'm done fermenting. So now I'm going to take this, and this claret, you can see there's a nice little love ring right here that some of the strawberries and watermelon kind of left. Plus, we're going to see all the lovely sediment. So now I'm actually going to take my secondary bucket, and I'm just going to siphon from here into there so I can wash it all to bits. Okay, so I went ahead and I siphoned out, here's my original 6.5 gallon bucket, and you can see, right here, can you get a little close up? Here's all the soylent pink that was left over from all the nastiness. That's why you need a siphon. Siphon actually has a nice little stopper on the bottom to get that last little 1/4 inch or whatnot. You don't want to get all that sediment in here. So now what we're going to do is, there's still yeast possibly in here. So the next part is, right now this wine is technically ready. We're going to add some clean stuff to make it even more because it's got that cloudy pinkness to it. Additionally, I'm going to add some sweetener. And as we said earlier, the yeast will take that sweetener and make more yeast. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to kill all the yeast. So what we're going to do is we're going to add our potassium sorbate and our Camden tablets, which is actually potassium metabisulfate. And here's what they look like. What am I doing? I'm doing a 1/4 teaspoon, which is about 2 tablets of potassium metabisulfate. You can always add a little bit more, and the 2.5 teaspoons of potassium sorbate. And basically what this does is it kills all the yeast. Now, I think what it really does is, I believe there's about 1/2 dozen mugwort in here. And this stuff here is food, and this stuff here simulates till after midnight. So whatever happens, I mean, you know, that's what happens inside this piece. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to add our yeast killer. We're going to stir. And then we'll be back in about an hour once this is done. Okay, so technically our wine is ready to bottle right now, but I like to add this extra little piece that's super clear. Get a little close up on that. This stuff is probably about $1 or $2 per packet, but it's really worth it. As you can see, said earlier, this color is meh, it's okay. You know, it's not only does it make it more clear, it actually takes some of the more sediment, and we can get some more of that lovely pink slime / soylent pink. But what we're going to do here is it's a 2-stage process. So remember, our yeast is all dead, if you will. And we're going to add our packet of ketazole. And then after 1 hour, we're going to stir it 1 hour, then we're going to add the other stuff. So right now, we're just going to add our ketazole. Oh. There it goes. Okay, now make sure you get it all, squeeze it out, shake it. Shake it all. Get the last little drop. And stir, and wait 1 hour. All right, this is step 2. You have to dissolve the Cheetosam, the second packet, into 1 ounce of warm water. Gently pour in, and gently stir for 30 seconds. When we're done, we're gonna put our lid on with the airlock and wait 48 hours. All right, so here we are, we're on day 11, 2 days after our super clean, and let's see how much this has cleared up. Oh yeah, it's much better. See it turn it from a Turkish bathhouse to Turkish delight. And now, right now, so our wine is done, it's cleared. We don't want to agitate this at all because all of that gunk, all those Oompa Loompas with their flame throwers did their job, and all that extra crap is on the bottom, and we're much more clear. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to siphon our bottles. Now, like I said, this is unsweet. I'm going to bottle 4 of these because I may have friends or family or whatnot that may like some unsweet type wine. So I'm going to go ahead and just start bottling, and I'll show you 2 of them, and then we'll go ahead and cut, and then we'll get to the next video. So we're just going to do a simple siphon. Kind of tricky. This one's a little bit better to use if you have 2 people. But we'll figure it out. Now this one did not get as clear as my last one. It might be because of the watermelon, but it is definitely more clear than what it was beforehand. So like I said, I'm gonna bottle all 4 of these, and I'll show you for the sweetening part next. All right, so here we are on day 12. So I bottled my 4 unsweetened wines, and as you can see, I used my brand new corker and totally nailed it. All 4 of these are exactly uniform, exactly how I wanted them to pan out. But I was looking, and I was a little disappointed with the cloudiness. And so when I started with the other piece, I actually added some darker grape juice to get some sweetener, and ended up stirring it before I filtered it. So all the little sludge at the bottom mixed in. So I ended up adding a whole nother of that super clear stuff. In hindsight, as you can see here, if you can see this side by side, here's the stuff from yesterday, and after another super clear, here's today, it's much more clear. And I'll do another side-by-side comparison. So for this being almost 6 gallons of wine sludge mixture, I should have added 2 super clears, but bygones be bygones. I don't like to dwell on the past, so it is what it is. So now I have added my super clear. I have siphoned it into the new bucket. So here is the old sludge, even more crap that was in there. All of this cloudiness that you see here, even more of this cloudiness was settled at the bottom. Now we have a much more clear type piece. So what we're going to do here is we're going to actually sweeten. So first we're going to take our little dropper, keeping everything clean. Do a nice little taste test. Oh, that's good. Okay, so we had a nice rude interruption. My cameraman was going to fire. We'll take a dock in your pay in a little bit. But anyways, I can taste the flavor. Another rule of thumb with this piece, things that are on my mind right now, you want to wait at least 30 days. I don't know if I said that before. You want to wait at least 30 days to drink it. Some of us can't wait longer than others, but it tastes much better if you wait 30 days plus. Additionally, when you go to cork stuff, I have the number 8 corks. There's number 7, 8, and 9. Obviously, small, medium, large, if you will. 7 and 8, you can use this corker, which we'll go through in just a minute. Number 7 is the cheapest. It's for about maybe a month of wine bottling. Number 8 is up to a year. I've read and seen some other things. You can go more than a year. And number 9, if you use that, that's for over a year if you want to do it for 100 years or whatever, and you need more professional corker. I just went with the number 8s. Additionally, a good rule of thumb, 10% wine and over. You don't really have to refrigerate. If it's less than 10%, especially after you open it, you have to do refrigeration because the plethora amount of wine. So I did my little taste test. It tastes great for a dry wine, if you will. Now I'm going to add my sugar. I have about 4.5 gallons left after I have my 4 liters, or about a gallon of my dry wine. So I do about half a cup of sugar per gallon. So I have about 2.5 cups of sugar that I'm going to go ahead and sweeten my wine. Now remember, we killed all the yeast. If I was to add this sugar now and there was yeast in there, it'd start to ferment again. This could be a little bit tricky or something that you may want to look into. I don't want to, but if you do have a little bit of yeast in it, we didn't kill it all, you can make some sparkling wine. But then you have sparkles underneath the cork and pressure. I don't have to deal with that crap. So I'm just gonna go ahead and sweeten my wine, add my 2.5 cups of sugar, stir, and then we'll do another taste test. All right, so here we are. I have my, just a couple bottles. I'm gonna bottle all of these, but here's my little corker. It took me actually a couple minutes to figure this out. We actually loaded it in almost like a nice little magazine around there. You just put it on top, it grasps a hold, you clamp it down, and it pops right in there. That's it. So you could definitely see the difference. Here's my sweeter wine that I did the super clean, a second one for. You could actually almost see right through it. This one's a little more cloudy, but you know, these are for the dry guys that are gonna drink that stuff. So super clean, it definitely gets more of the sediment out and it looks a little more pleasing. All right, so we are all done. We have corked all of our bottles. All in all, we have 23 bottles of wine. We might have gotten a 24th. We had a couple little spillage mishaps or whatnot, but 23 good bottles. First, I want to show you the actual recipe. I don't think I showed that yet. Let me know when you're kind of in focus. You can see that for a couple seconds. Okay, you can kind of see the back a little bit too, but that's the actual recipe itself. So as far as initial costs, all the equipment I had, it was under, but in conservative estimate, about $200 for all my buckets and the strainers and all my chemicals and everything else, all the additives that I have and the muslin cloth and all that kind of stuff. And then as far as these bottles, I went on like some wine thing and I bought 60 bottles, the corker, 100 corks, and that was another $150. But the bottles themselves, you can actually reuse. So with all that said, it was a $350 investment, if you will. But this batch itself, the strawberries were $7 per bag times 2 bags. $5 watermelon, $5 in sugar, $2 in yeast, and about $3 for the clear stuff. So that's $29. We'll say $30. So after the initial investment, this one batch for 23 bottles of wine, each bottle cost me $1.30 to make. So you can do the math. If you buy these lovely premium bottles in the store, it probably cost you about $10. So this is the equivalent to $230 of wine that you would buy at the store. So, and you can't tell the difference at all. None whatsoever. But that actually is, I have some old stuff that is aging nicely, and after letting it sit for a little bit, it actually does taste really well. So one last thing I want to talk about was the actual sanitation. So you can clean something and sanitize it. So to sanitize these bottles and sanitize everything else, those Camden tablets I talked about earlier, you just crush a couple of those Camden tablets and you mix it with some water, and that actually sanitizes stuff. So even though we were all clean, remember that last little bit when we killed the yeast? That actually sanitized the wine as well. So any little mishaps that might have had, or drippage or spillage or whatever, kind of sanitize all that piece. So this is it. Hope you all enjoyed it, and yeah, happy winemaking.